Hey everyone, so we have my friend Brian back again, and we're gonna be doing part two of his move to Canada. Or sorry, his move to the USA from Canada. So he's originally Canadian and he's a software engineer from Canada and moved to US for the same thing. So yeah, he's working here in Silicon Valley as a software engineer. And this is part two. What did we cover in the last?
We covered I just landed at that point, so we
Yeah.
just had covered kind of a preparation of what I've done and the transition to America. But now that I've actually been through the American systems and actually set up a lot of stuff, I can speak more to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the first video that we shot, we literally shot it as soon as he landed. So we were just talking about what happened before he flew, during his flight, and then as soon as he landed. But now a lot of things has happened. It's been his first. Like a lot of things have happened in the last 2 weeks. He's been working for at least a week and a few days.
Yep.
He found an apartment. He has his SSN. He's setting up his bank accounts. Like so much has happened. So we're just gonna dig in through all that. So
Yeah, I'll just start with it
yeah,
then.
start it off, and we're gonna answer all these questions in the chat after because we just want to quickly cover all this content first. So yeah,
Yeah.
we're gonna have a section at the end.
Yeah. So I think to start with, and what everyone who's considering to come here to work or move here should do, is to find a place ASAP. If you don't have an address, you can't mail anything to, hopefully you have a friend, or at least you can mail to your workplace. But I think number one is you need to find a place. And then what does that mean to find a place? Is you just have to put down a deposit. First you do a lot of viewings, and then the place you like, you put down a deposit, and then once you can only put the deposit too because you have to do an application. Sorry. So you do viewings, an application. If your application goes through with the landlord, then you put a deposit. And then, you said the move-in date, you sign the lease. So all this can be done, I think, pretty much without an SSN, without even really a phone number. That's why I think it's very imperative to find a place right away. Right? You can let the landlord know that you are from Canada or from wherever and that you don't have a credit score. If you're from Canada, they can sometimes pull the Canadian SSN. Otherwise, you just have to pay a higher upfront deposit, right? And then you'll get that deposit back when you, of course, leave, right? So usually they'll ask for half month's deposit, but if you don't have a credit history here in America, just like I did, you may have to pay a full month's worth of damage deposit or security deposit.
Okay.
So yeah, specifically for finding a place, my advice is just to do a lot of viewings, right? So I would recommend at least 2 weeks before you actually come to America, you set up these viewings by finding them on, for example, I found them on Craigslist, the place I have. You can search for apartments.com. There's another site called Rent SF Now, I think. There's also Zillow. There's a lot of different sites. I would just recommend the kind of two more common ones are Craigslist and Zillow. Just be aware not to fall for scams, right? So always make sure you view the place, and vet out the landlord. Never send money before viewing the apartment. That's a guarantee.
Okay.
Right? That's a kind of giveaway. That's a scam that they ask you to send you money to hold on to the apartment, right? So never fall for that. Never send money before viewing, right? Set up a lot of viewings about let's say 2 weeks or a week ahead, right? You don't want to do too early because then the viewing may close, right? But also you don't want to do too late because then, you can also do a day of. I think lots of landlords kind of flexible like that. Day of is kind of pushing it though. So do lots of viewings. In my case, I did 10 viewings, so I had a good experience about what I was looking for, what kind of prices and place amenities it comes with, as well as the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So for example, I did lots of viewings Nob Hill, Russian Hill, one in Telegraph, and I did one I had friends here as well. So you just look at their places and ask see if they have any rooms in the building.
Yeah.
Right. So for example, James looked around his building, and then there were a few places in this building, but just nothing that fit what I wanted. So
Yeah. So out of all these websites, what do you which one do you recommend? Craigslist, so each has their pros and cons, right?
Yeah.
What did you notice when using them?
So Craigslist, I think, is one of the best because landlords don't have to pay anything to put a posting up.
I see.
Right. So you have a lot more smaller landlords, or landlords are a bit cheaper, right? They'll put their listing up. And from what I learned, the listings get refreshed every few days or something. I think every 48 hours. So this forces all the postings to be new. You'll never find a stale apartment on there. Zillow is also decent. I think it's like a small fee. From my experience, the Rent SF Now, the website's really nice. And I did view like one or two places from them. The problem is like they charge quite a bit more too. There's a premium to using that kind of website. So there's a trade-off. It depends on if you want a simpler, nicer place, go with like a more expensive website like Rent SF Now.
Yeah. Okay, so finding a place.
Yeah.
What do you want to get into? Finding a place for a bit and then SSN? Or just, like, I think because one guy was asking for advice on how to find a place. I guess let's just talk about housing first.
Yeah,
because you said that's the important part, right? So, yeah okay.
Yeah, so more about housing. So to do all these viewings, first thing you need to do is always set your budget. And the way to set your budget is to find out the average rent of the city. So for example, in SF, the average rent is about $3,000 USD per month, right? So that is like a baseline of what you can know, like, is this place cheap or expensive, right? So for example, if you view listings too, if you set a budget of like 1K in SF, you actually you will like barely see any postings, or you'll see postings that require a roommate. So first thing is number one is budget. I would say the second thing is to set like all your amenities, like what you want. So make a list of like, can you deal with what kind of laundry do you want, right? There's kind of 3 types of laundry I learned. There's like off-site or like a laundromat. So you carry like all your luggage or laundry, to like a laundromat like down a block or 2. There's like in-building laundry, which is pretty decent, right? You just walk down the building, go down the elevator, do your laundry. Usually you have to pay for those. I saw like $2, $3 for each time you wash and dry. And then the best one is the in-unit. So you have the washing drying machine inside your unit. And this is the best because then it's at your own convenience. You don't have to pay, right? So laundry is one. A dishwasher is another one. Another amenity.
One thing I would say about the in-unit is that it's harder to get in SF because SF is an older city, so they don't have that as much as like other cities. Other cities, you'll pretty much have in-unit in every single apartment.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's why there's 3 different ones because it's an old city. Okay, continue.
Yeah, laundry's first one. Dishwasher, like all like appliances. You want a fridge. It was like, crazy to me that I saw some places that didn't have a full fridge and freezer. Yeah, it's like they have just a mini fridge. And like if you don't use a freezer, then sure. But
yeah,
like fridge is important to me. Like smaller stuff that I didn't think would matter, like now matter to me. Like I have a big kitchen sink, and that's really good because I just wash dishes by hand. But now my bathroom sink is like tiny, which means like I splash water everywhere every time I use it.
Okay.
Right. So I think sink size, like kind of, other things were like very basic things. So like square footage, the type of flooring, like how many floors up the unit is, right? If it's like up 6 stories, you can't go upstairs, right? Whereas like if you're on a 3 or 2 second floor, 3rd or 2nd floor, you can still kind of walk up it.
Yeah.
Right.
And Farzan, there are door-to-door laundry services in SF. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna get through phone number and SIM after. I think right now we're gonna focus on housing, but that's also a thing when you're thinking about laundry. One thing I noticed is like you can pay more for in-unit, but sometimes you can just pay for like a service as well, and it's like sometimes even cheaper than pay for service.
Yeah.
Like the service is even cheap, so sometimes you should see, okay, there might not be in building or off-site, but the price is lower that's like really good that I can just pay for a service.
Yeah, I think I was quoted like maybe $20 a month if you do like laundry twice a month. So something like that. I also heard like $600 a year. Yeah, there's services like that. Well, they just come up, pick your laundry, and it's pretty nice because then they'll do all the sorting for you, like all the colors and whatnot, and like dry for you and like do it nice. So that's also another option here. Other things to consider when you're doing viewings, I didn't mention it, but actually the most important thing is location. So for SF specific, I learned that SF is organized based on neighborhoods, and then within the neighborhoods, you actually care a lot about the street. So this is actually like a huge difference from where I come from in Calgary, where the street doesn't really matter too much. Even the neighborhood kind of matters. Well, like for Calgary, it was like quadrant based, right? Northeast, northwest, southeast, southwest. Whereas now SF is more about neighborhood and like even the street matters. Right?
Yeah.
Right. I have a feeling this is probably similar to New York, where even the neighborhood and the street matter. But if you went to like a bigger city, a smaller city, it probably doesn't matter as much. So location is like a huge thing here. That's like a whole other topic.
We can answer this right now, Farzan. Like, what was the biggest surprise or most unexpected thing you faced when you relocated?
Biggest surprise to me was maybe like how noisy the city was. Because I live like pretty much downtown San Francisco, and I come from like a smaller town or like smaller city where we have like homes, right? So it's actually quite noisy to like hear your neighbors in the same building. Like you hear banging on the wall sometimes. Like people who when people come home late, kind of drunk, they kind of talk a bit louder. I hear like car honks and like random drunk people on the street too. So that's like a huge one of the big surprises I think. So not expecting that when I relocated.
Okay. So, okay. What else about housing? And then we'll make sure we cover it.
Yeah, the amenities you have, it's good. And SF is very neighborhood and very actually street based. And also specific to SF is like the hilliness, right? So you just gotta when you scout out a place, make sure to walk from where you plan to rent and like your work location and like nearby stores, so that you get used to how much elevation change there is. Because certain streets will be okay in SF, but you go down one or two streets and the elevation change is like extremely massive.
Yeah.
For example, if you go to California Street, the main kind of street in SF downtown, it's like extremely hilly. Like there's actually stairs for one part. That was like super surprising to me. It's just you just straight stairs in your sidewalk. So elevation matters a lot.
That's true. That is weird.
Yeah. Other parts, let's see. Weather is a big one. So if you're not moving just to SF, but say you go to like Seattle, New York, or like even like Texas or some other state, weather will be a big one. Thankfully in SF, the weather is pretty stable throughout the whole year. But if you went to like New York, you will get like actually like winter seasons which are much colder. Or go to Seattle, it's probably like more rainy over there.
Okay. He walks to work pretty much. So when you're finding a place, did you try to find a place that's close to work on purpose, or like was commuting an option at all, or not really?
I did consider commuting, but I think because I'm new to the area, it's just easier just to walk to work. So I actually did ask James, like, what do you think of Oakland, right? Because I looked on Google Maps and it's like the BART is about like half an hour to work. I'm like, that doesn't seem too bad, and the prices in Oakland are like quite a bit cheaper than downtown SF.
Yeah.
Right. So I did consider using the transit system here, but just to keep it simple, I'll just start by walking to work, and then once I'm here, I'm like settled for a year. You can always switch after a place, right? Like if the leases here in SF are about like 12 months usually. So if you decide like you don't like the place, just remember that you can leave after like a year or look for a new spot. Yeah.
Yeah. What else do you want to cover?
There's a lot. Let's see. Oh, for last thing about housing, I would say like get renter's insurance, right?
Get renter's insurance.
I'm looking to get it too. I don't have it actually. But I was getting some quotes a few days ago, and it's about like $160 per year, or about like $12 each month, and it covers quite a lot. It covers about 15,000 of your personal property. So if there's like a fire, burglary, like water damage, covers quite a lot for quite cheap. All right, so renter's insurance is like really good value. I would say get renter's insurance.
Yeah. Okay. So let's look at it. So find a place before anything. Try to find a place, and you could actually do that without a SSN. Use the different common websites like CraigslistApartments.com, Zillow. Depending on what city, you might even have different options.
Yep.
Never send money before viewing.
Yep.
Set a budget. Make sure you understand how much it's gonna cost on average, and then you could kind of figure out what your budget is on how much you want to spend for housing. Then set your amenities, like figure out what you want: the laundry, the dishwasher, a full fridge, a big kitchen. Like definitely square footage as well.
Yeah,
right?
Square footage is another one.
What else are some other ones here?
Things like I want to think about things you can't change, right? So square footage is like one, location is other one. I also was worried about if it has a microwave or not. You also want to worry about like what side the window's facing.
Yeah.
Right. If you want to be like that detail oriented, you can be.
I mean, it makes a big difference if you're on a low floor, and also if you're facing the street. Yeah, because it's gonna be noisy.
Yeah. For example, my apartment faces the street and specifically the intersection, so you hear a lot of honking because it's at the intersection. Oh. Right. So that part's annoying. Yeah. Right. Or if I'm facing I think north side, so like the sunrise and sunset, it's like not too bad. Whereas I think if you're facing east or west, you'll see the sun directly.
Yeah, like, it'll just heat up your room crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay. Other amenity, square footage.
Get renter's insurance. Okay.
Yeah. Last thing is you should also negotiate. If I would always negotiate the rent if you can.
Negotiate rent.
Yeah. For example, I negotiate like $75 off my rent per month. So I would always just try. Right. It's free. It's always free to try to negotiate the rent. Yeah. Yeah.
Rent control.
Yeah. Rent control is another one. That just means that the rent cannot increase above like an unreasonable amount per year. So that in SF that applies to I think buildings built before like 1980 or something like that.
Yeah. 1970.
The 90s, yeah, something along those lines. So this may or may not apply to your city.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think that's pretty much it. I covered a lot.
Let's see. Let me look. Let me see. We covered everything. Housing. Okay. Let's talk about a bit your actually experience. Like, walk us. How fast did it take you to find an apartment? And just walk us through like how it was searching for stuff and then booking calls. Some things you would have done different.
Yeah. So I landed March 1st and then I had a hotel right away. The hotel was like for a week later till March 8th. So I think that was like a perfect amount because I started viewings not on the day I landed, but the day after. So I think I did like 2 viewings at first and then James told me that was not enough. So yeah, at that rate, it was not enough. It's like 2 a day is too little.
Yeah.
Like I started, so then the day after I bumped it up to about like 6 or 7 viewings a day. So like,
is that optimal, you think?
I think you could even fit even more. Depends on how picky you are, right? If you're really picky, you need to do more viewings. If you're not as picky, right, you can do fewer. I would say I had the average amount. Like I wasn't too picky.
Yeah.
All right. So 6 to 7 a day. Also, a tip is like try to find a lot of units in the same building because then you can knock out a bunch of viewings within one day. Mm-hmm. So I saw like three apartments, right, and within one span of like 1 hour because I just told the guy like let's go to a different floor, and it matters quite a bit. Like you start getting really good eye for what's a good apartment, what's not.
Even the units in the same apartment were way different.
Yeah, so I had, for example, one on the same floor, and one was maintained really well, whereas one was not. You could tell right away because like one was dirty, one was like, just like a lot of scratch marks, and the appliances were not as good, whereas one like was well kept. You could tell because the price is also more expensive too.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting to see the same unit in the different buildings. For example, one I saw in Telegraph Hill, I think. On the 3rd floor, it was like kind of like bad, and then whereas you went up 2 floors, and the lady showed me another one, and it was like amazing. So it was like a huge difference, right? And the price was not even that different. It was only like $50 or $100 different per month, right? So that's why it's like very important to try to find one's try to just do a lot of viewings. Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, that even happened to me. Like my current apartment right now. When I came to view the apartments, it wasn't even this one. This one wasn't even listed. And then I went, and then they showed me a bunch of the different units, and yeah, they're all different. If you go to the very basement of my floor, very basement here, it's like fully newly renovated areas, and then like this one is kind of older one, but still more renovated, and some are just pure old and small.
Yeah.
So
that's James's tip is actually to use a real estate agent because they know people who are trying to rent out their property. So real estate agent is also a good tip.
Did you use a real estate agent?
I didn't, but surprisingly, my apartment landlord is a real estate agent. So.
Oh yeah.
I think one thing we missed too was pets, or like how many people are planning to live. So you have pets, so you have like a spouse, your partner, or if you want to decide on roommates, that's all like something you should consider too. Roommates will make it a lot cheaper, but you also have to live with more people.
Yeah.
Right. So up to you if you want to deal with roommates. If the property allows pets or whatnot, yeah.
Okay, so let's just dive a little bit deeper into how you are actually getting these viewings. So you would look on Craigslist, and then you'd find like a number and then call them. Like, how were you scheduling everything and making calls and stuff? How were you managing your time there?
Yeah, exactly. So the tip for doing fast viewings is to never email, and they also is a tip mentioned to me a lot too, is that the phone number is always best. So I would just text the landlord and be like, hey, like, are you available for a viewing like today, tomorrow, or like even the day after? And then like you just set up a time and date, and then the landlord will come back to you. They'll be like, yeah, I'm available these days and times, or some of them were like, you can just come right now and see.
Yeah. Right.
But sometimes you have to be respectful for the landlord. They have to come from like quite far away to show the place. So call them if you want. I did a lot of texting. Just if you by the time you email, it might be too late. I had a few email ones that always came back super late, or like I already had. For example, I already taken my place, and some emails were still coming in. It's like, yeah, you're way too late. Yeah. So the setup is like, yeah, go on Craigslist, have a bunch of viewings ready, and just start texting people. Say, oh, I want to see this viewing. A tip for me was that you put the address in the text, so that way it reminds you that this person's number is linked with this address.
Oh, okay. Put address.
Yeah, and then I also schedule
contact name basically.
In a way, yeah, that'll be smart.
Okay.
And then I scheduled all these in my calendar, so make sure you don't have conflicts with viewings. Yeah. So it's like the second I confirm the viewing, I put in my calendar, and I would just set about half an hour time. You'll also budget like walking or like translating to the viewing, but put everything in the calendar. Yeah. And then when the time comes, you show up like on time or like 5 minutes early.
Yeah.
Wait for the landlord to open it up. And then you want to do like a thorough walkthrough, right? So one thing I would do right away is like turn on the water. I had a funny story. Me and James walked into this like really kind of sketchy looking place, and then I was just doing the walk around. And then James turned on the bathtub. I think.
No, I just the first thing I did walked in. I turned on the kitchen sink.
Yeah, and then it came out like brown and yellow. I'm like, holy shit! Like imagine drinking that water. It's like hell no.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. So yeah, do a thorough walkthrough. Like make sure no mold under the sinks. Check the smell. Yeah. Some crazy water.
Also, I went to a really nice one once, and then I turned on the sink. That was like the one thing that's bad about it. But I was like, that's a hard no. If the water doesn't come out clean.
Yeah. Yeah, just do a thorough walkthrough. Like just like imagine how you would set up the space too. All right, like you think about like I would put the bed here. I would put my desk here. I would put the TV couch here. Right? So you need a...
What do you mean by thorough walkthrough, though? Like, could you go explain that more?
Well, just use all your 5 senses and, like, just be a judge. Like, touch everything. I was, like, touching all the, like, lights to turn on, smell everything, right? Make sure no moldy smell, no, like, smell of cigarettes or smoke. I was, like, opening all the cabinets to make sure they were working, right? Turn on all the water, like, sinks, faucets, like, shower. Flush the toilet. Step on everything, too. Like, you want to check the flooring to make sure it's, like, not too squishy or like weird anywhere.
Yeah.
Right? That's what I mean. Like also look out the window, right? See what you see out the window.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Suss out the neighborhood, suss out the neighbors a bit, like make sure that
Yeah, keep your ears open. Like are the neighbors already loud? Do you hear traffic bad? Yeah.
Where are you staying? He had a hotel for a week. So when he moved here, they gave him a relocation bonus.
Mm-hmm.
So he used the relocation bonus in order to pay for a hotel for a week, and it's enough to even pay for a few weeks probably, right? Yeah. Usually they give you enough where you can pay for a few weeks, and then during the few weeks, he's doing a bunch of viewings. So now we're just talking about how to actually do the viewings. I'm gonna drop this as a separate video so you'll see exactly what he talked about, all the different websites that he used in order to find it, and now we're just talking about like actually like make sure you call them, don't text, or call them or text them, but just don't email. Mm-hmm. And yeah, what else were you saying?
Yeah, I was staying in a hotel, but you honestly just crash with friends if you can. That would like save the most money, and like people who live here know the best, right? So
yeah.
So for example, James helped me a lot. Like just by looking at the map, he could tell me right away whether that was like in the Tenderloin or not, or whether that was a good area. So yeah, I did the hotel route. You can do Airbnb, crash at friends or family. Yeah.
Do you cook or do you use DoorDash?
I do cook at home, so I was like a stove was important to me. Apparently, electric stove is more cheap than a gas stove in terms of utilities, but yeah, I don't think it matters too much.
Okay.
Yeah,
we'll probably spend a few more minutes on housing. Let's just make sure we captured everything. Are the worst areas? I don't know. I actually don't know.
Yeah, I can't say.
Probably, yeah. I actually don't know. I don't know.
But at least for the SF, we can tell you if like there's kind of 2 main areas you want to avoid in SF. I think. Yeah. The Tenderloin is one, and then
6th Street or something.
Yeah, 6th Street. Yeah.
But it's gonna change. You never know.
Yeah, who knows?
Like so the streets change of what's happening, but
yeah.
Okay, what else related to housing? Oh yeah, you said like bring at least $10,000 when you come. So for housing specifically.
Yeah, so that gets also into the finance part, is that I did not come prepared with enough cash because I was renting out a place for 2,200, and then they want that much amount as a security deposit plus the first month's rent, right? So I needed like 4,400 right away.
Yeah.
Right. This is on top of like me spending just to like food to like live out of the hotel. So it's like transit and like Uber rides and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I would say 10,000 is like a lot. This is because I say like the average rent in SF is 3K. So if you find a place, right, you have to deposit 3K right away.
Yeah.
As well as pay 3K for the monthly rent. So that's 6K, right? And then like say add like a 4K budget to like have a hotel and like have food, right? Have transport. So say like bring quite a bit of USD. I only brought about like 4K, and that was definitely not enough.
Yeah.
Right. So try to bring as much cash you can. Recommend around 10K. You could get by with more like 8K, 7K too. I would say not less than like 5K though.
Yeah.
Between 5 to 10 is like a good amount.
Okay. Anybody have any questions before we move on away from housing towards more about finance and SSN and stuff? And just like think for a little bit and just make sure we cover it.
Yeah, just the whole
That's
process.
everything? That's everything?
That's quite a bit, yeah. This is quite in-depth too. Number one is like location, like you can't change that. The whole process of viewings, finding out Craigslist, texting them or calling them, setting up the viewing, and then just going to see it and make sure like if you like it. And if you do like it, normally you have to pay an application fee of like $30, right? So that application fee they use to like check the your credit score, as well as like do a background check and whatnot, and call any references you have. So you have to be approved for the application, and then you can actually like put down a deposit and rent the place.
Cool. Okay. Alex, somebody said why didn't you look in the marina at all?
So number one goal for me for looking at a place was walkability to work, right? So the marina is just too far away, right? I think it would be like a 20 or 30. I think it was like 30-minute walk to work, which just too far for me.
Okay.
Right. Although I hear it's a nice place there.
Yeah, it isn't.
And we have visited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. That's everything related to housing.
Yep.
We're stop.